Hey, thanks for listening. Please subscribe to our newsletter at theproductporch.com for notifications on the latest episodes and exclusive content. And so you can be a great product manager in an internal setting if you have ownership mentality. If you take it as like, I want to see this thing succeed.
Yep.
I need to know what success looks like. How do you measure that with a product that your team has to use?
There you go.
Welcome to the Product Porch with Joe Golly, Ryan Cantwell, and me, Todd Blockier. Today we answer the question, is internal product management really product management? Now settle in, folks, because on the Product Porch, every topic is a product topic.
It is hot here on the porch, gentlemen. Just talking about the heat here. As we're recording, this is third week in June, and it's a pretty massive heat wave here on the porch.
So, Todd, I don't know if you heard it. Joe sounded like the morning traffic report. It's a hot day in Milwaukee, and we're waiting.
I sound like Phil from Groundhog Day. That's what I felt like. I feel like I'm Phil from Groundhog Day. Anyways, internal product management. I was thinking about this because it was a part of my career where my customers were our internal employees when I was working in fintech. So my products weren't commercially available, right? My clients or my customers were the financial advisors. They were the client specialists, the branch managers. We would develop the tools for them to use for buying bonds or quoting stocks or building out portfolios. And at first I kind of hated it because I wanted to be, outside talking to clients, but then I loved it because I got immediate feedback. It was awesome. But I realized as I've kind of moved along in my career as a consultant and a trainer, some organizations don't view or don't believe that there's such a thing as an internal product manager. They look at those individuals as more like project managers, where they're asking them to integrate a software or upgrade something or take the latest version of XYZ software. So I thought I would bring that topic to the porch and just see what you guys think. Like, is there such a thing as internal product management?
So, Joe, you described to us what I would call internal product management, right? You're serving an internal stakeholder. They have a particular set of needs. You are understanding their problems. You are helping achieve a particular business outcome.
Yep.
That business outcome usually being increased efficiency, reduced cost, like something along those lines. It's not directly tied to revenue, but it can enable a lot of different things within the business. External product management, on the other hand, strip away what the KPI is, very similar, where you've got a product manager who's looking at external stakeholders, helping them solve their problems, creating value to achieve another business outcome. Usually that is towards something like top line, revenue, profit, growth in one form or fashion. So while the job in my mind is very similar, it's just who you are creating value for is the difference.
Totally. So you mentioned project management, Todd. Can we describe like what you think the difference is between a project manager and a product manager? So let's just peel back the onion a little bit.
I should say the simple difference is project managers are about time, and they're about time and money. That's what they're about. Product managers are about creating outcomes for customers and businesses through solving problems. So a project manager is, how long is this project going to take? What are the milestones that we're going to hit? Are we on time? Are we on track? Are we under budget? Time and budget.
Now, can a product manager double as a project manager? And here's what I mean by that. Right now, there is a fixed start and end date to a new release that we're going to integrate. It's an optional release, but we're going to integrate it. We're choosing to opt in to that release, right? It's optional. I'm still doing discovery. I'm trying to understand the needs of the customer who are internal, right? We're scouring, we're doing competitive, we're listening to the needs, we're prioritizing which problems we want to solve for, which is very product management focused. But yet how we execute it is more project based. Some would say in organizations like that, and one I work in right now, that's more of a project manager. How would you describe that to someone?
You have a third-party vendor that you use for some part of your software.
Correct.
That software is used by users internally and externally, or
just internally?
Just internally. So it's a software that's used by your company's users. And this piece of software is provided by a third-party vendor. And you have someone who is responsible, or you have a team responsible for making sure that this is implemented in the right way and rolled out in the right way.
Yep.
Right?
So all the discovery, problem identification, personas, KPIs, all product, but how we execute upon it is very project.
I wonder if you're making this harder than you need to.
Fair enough.
Now, here's what I mean. Joe, you think product, you think persona, you think outcome, you think problem, you think jobs to be done. Not everything needs a persona and a jobs to be done. Sometimes we need to implement this thing. Okay, when are we going to implement it? In March. Okay, well, the steps to implement it. These are the steps. Okay, let's do those steps. And you don't need a user, and you don't need a problem, and you don't need an emotional job to be done. Now, I don't know if that's your case. Maybe we'd have to get more details than probably we're allowed to get into on this this podcast episode. I do think that sometimes product managers can make things a little bit tougher than they need to be sometimes when we're talking about project work.
Wait, product managers make things complicated? That I've never seen that happen before. I just have to laugh because, yes, we love making things complicated sometimes. But I'm hearing a fundamental question, Joe. When we see internal product managers operating in an organization, they often get mistaken for other roles, or they are undersold and treated like ticket takers. Those people who are just there to execute. Now, what Todd is saying is true. Sometimes we do need to execute. Even if you're an external product manager, you still need to execute. You're going to do projects. You got to deliver things. I really want to talk about what internal product management, what we think it really is here, and how do we contrast it to other roles in the organization? Because I think there's some confusion that surrounds it.
Where do you think the confusion lies?
So let me give you a scenario. I want your reaction to this. I have seen some people and organizations treat internal product management as the junior product manager. It doesn't need real respect. There's low risk there. They're not going to harm anything. They're just going to look after these internal stakeholders and do what we ask them to do.
I hear what you're saying. Personally, I think there's more responsibility when it comes to external product management, and the scope gets a little larger. We could talk about that in detail. But to your point, I think the danger in positioning it as these are the junior ones is then it becomes very easy for stakeholders to walk all over them.
Totally.
And you've given your product team no teeth, and now they're just delivery monkeys for the whims of the stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan, or even Todd, I'll ask, how much discovery, ownership, or outcome work do you need to be PMing? Well, in that scenario, are you still doing a lot of discovery? Are you still doing a lot of outcome work?
The challenge in that role, if you're an internal product manager, meaning your users are internal to your company, there's a few challenges that arise that make it tough to do some of the things that we talk a lot about on this show. So we talk a lot about outcomes, outlining outcomes. We talk a lot about understanding problems, doing product discovery. Certainly you can do all of that with an internal product. The challenge becomes you are working with coworkers. You are working with people who work for the same company, and suddenly your title means a lot more because you're within a hierarchy with everyone that you're working with. No matter what product you have and who your customer is, it is very easy to become someone who moves user stories. I move them from the backlog into the sprint, and I get them done, and then I move them, and that's who you are. That's a very simple thing to do no matter what, because there's always a lot to do.
Yeah.
And if you just want to gather inputs from your customer support team and from your sales team and from your management team and just make a list of things and then get things done, you can do that. And you can be very busy and get a lot done. It's even a bigger temptation when you're internal. And the reason it's a bigger temptation is because you have less accountability.
I don't know if
Ryan
I
is
agree.
my stake. Let me explain what I mean.
All right, go ahead.
Ryan's my stakeholder. He has a team of operators who use this product that I'm updating. It's a CRM for the company. I'm the product manager for this internal CRM, and Ryan's team is a team of operators that use it. I could come to Ryan and say, "Hey, Ryan, we have this idea we've been thinking about for the CRM. We want to solve a problem here, and I want to run this user test with you. I just want to see what you think of this." Depending on who Ryan is, and there's a lot of people who act the way I'm going to say here, he could respond just, "I don't give a crap about your stupid user test. My team has been complaining about this button for 2 months. Can you fix this button? We want this, move it to there." And then I can say, "Well, Ryan, I understand. We can move that column from there to there, but it causes friction for this reason or that reason. Why don't I test it and see how it's..." No, just do it. The hard part is you have less of that temptation. You don't have the user walking into your office telling you exactly what to do with your release plan when your users are external. But when they're internal, it's very easy to get caught up in the company politics of things. It's very easy to be the person with the lesser title and just have to do things you're told.
So Ryan, how would someone overcome that challenge?
As we look at overcoming situations like being told or just do what I say, you're gonna have to try to find opportunities to show where you can truly create value as an individual within the organization, and you're not necessarily doing that effectively if you're just a yes person.
There's a lot of gray in this, and I think we've talked about it in previous podcasts where sometimes you just got to get the ticket done. Right, regardless if your clients are internal or external. Sometimes they're just like, especially if you are dealing with like regulatory compliance or legal, like things that have hard deadlines, you can't like try to shove product management principles in those scenarios. You've got to just get it done. You got to have a start and an end date. And sometimes you just have to relent on some of those stakeholder requests. But I do think that you can still apply things like metrics, outcomes, personas. You can still apply a lot of those concepts and show value internally in the organization. You can even do that with vended products.
And I think a great place to start, Joe, to help if you feel like you're stuck in a situation where you are just kind of beholden to the requests of your vendors, your internal organization, start doing discovery.
Yeah.
If you go just talk to the people who are using the tools that you're working with, even internal ones, because if you're not doing that, I'm going to say you're not really PMing, you're air traffic controlling.
Part of this is ownership. I used to say this early on. Now I'll say I don't completely believe this anymore, but there's an element of truth to it. I've grown, I've matured, there's nuance. But when I was younger, I owned my own business for a while. And when you own your own business, you're always working. You're thinking about the business at 11 o'clock at night. You're thinking about the business Sunday morning. You're thinking about the business all the time. And, after I moved on from that into other things, and even as a product manager, I began to say, I feel like there's two different types of personalities that seem to take shape in a job. Ownership mentality, like there's two mentalities, ownership mentality and employee mentality.
Yeah.
Employee mentality is transactional. What do you give me? You give me something, then I'll give you something. And I'll give you something as long as you're giving me something. I remember someone I spoke to once about being a manager. She wanted to know, like, how do I get a management job? You need to be a manager to get a management job. You need to have management experience. And I told her, I said, you need to take on responsibilities that are outside the scope of your current job title. Yeah. That's how you do it. You ask for leadership opportunities and you do the job without making more money or without getting more back to you. You actually take on more responsibility. And her response was like, why would I ever do that? Why would I take more responsibility without getting paid? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy being where you're at. You're just going to stay there your whole career.
Yeah.
But that to me is like employee mentality. Ownership mentality is I own the success of this thing I'm doing.
Yep.
Whatever that means. And you guys know me. I'm not a rising grinder. I'm not that kind of guy who feels like you need to, never take a break and never take a vacation. That's not who I am. But what I mean by that is you take that ownership on yourself. If it's to be, it's up to me. Whatever that means I got to get done, I'm just going to get done. And sometimes that will mean I got to work a little longer.
Yeah.
Sometimes that means I got to go outside of maybe the scope of my job. Okay. All this to say, first off, I don't think it's as binary as I used to think, but there are different mentalities here. For an internal product manager, I shouldn't even say internal, to be a product manager, you really need to take on the ownership responsibility. And so you can be a great product manager in an internal setting where your users are internal if you have ownership mentality. If you take it as like, I want to see this thing succeed.
Yep.
I need to know what success looks like. I need to figure out the problems that are stopping me to get there.
There you go. Yep.
Then you are a product manager.
Yeah. So Todd, I've got an analogy. I hope this resonates with you because as you were talking, it hit me. Many people, product manager, internal or external, could be stuck in triage mode.
Totally.
You are responding to emergencies or things that are coming up now. Okay, let's go. Where you should, if you want to grow in your ownership mode, you need to be in diagnostic, not in triage. You got to make time for diagnostic to understand the underlying problems, not just treating the immediate symptom that you're trying to triage.
And you will always have to do both.
Yeah.
You always have to do
You're going to
both.
have to. Yeah.
But yeah.
And you're going to also have to be someone that's looking outside to understand how are other people addressing this problem. You're going to have an understanding of how are other organizations that have a very similar need, how are they addressing that?
Yeah.
What challenges are they dealing with? What laws and regulations are changing, or what are the technological headwinds that are changing? I love, Todd, what you're saying about you just got to take ownership. It's your baby.
So I'm going to give you an example. So I'm at the LA Times and I have internal users who create video and upload video to our platform. I also have an external responsibility to grow video ad revenue and profitability through video. So I have both, right? I was doing investigation. I realized we were leveraging a tool to do continuous play on videos. And that tool was costing us more than it benefited us. I realized we're going to get rid of this tool. And then we start building a solution. Now, here's where I went wrong. So ownership mentality, great. I'm thinking about the outcome. We need to drive it. But where I got lost was I just started solutioning. And we came up with a solution with a team. And we built this whole solution to replace continuous play, replace that vendor and do it internally, which saved us a ton of money, thus immediately creating profitability, right?
Yep.
However, at no point did I include my internal users on how they use the tool to manage this video. And as I did that, I made a key mistake. And so immediately after releasing this tool, it is immediately failing because it relied on a field in our CMS that reporters didn't use. It wasn't the way I thought it would work. And now I created more work for them. So this was me not understanding my internal users, not doing any discovery there. All this to say, if you're an internal product manager, that's still a part of it. Like you have to sit down and think, okay, how does my user use this? Let me watch them. Let me see. And I think that risk of thinking we know is even greater internally than it is externally. Because, hey, we all have the same badge. So obviously we all do it the same way. Obviously we would all use the system the same way.
The danger of proximity. Like it's easy to make the assumption.
But I mean, I always told the product managers that I worked with or that I coached or trained, use that to your advantage. If you because all three of us have talked about the challenges of finding customers when you have an external facing product.
Yep.
Like I tell people all the time, you're an internal product manager, take advantage of the fact that you can get on a Zoom call or you can walk over to their desk and you can watch them, but you still have to apply the same techniques you would if they were an external facing customer. Like use it to your advantage.
That's absolutely true. I want to try something and see if this works out. I have an idea in my head.
Okay.
I want you to think about the best user research you ever did. The time when you were the proudest about going and getting information that you needed. I want you to think about that. Okay. So you have something in your head.
Mm-hmm.
What led to that? Why did you go learn?
So the example I'm thinking about, the reason I went to go learn was to identify where value could be created for a very particular segment of customer that we were not serving today. We needed to go find out if we wanted to do business and play in a segment that we didn't currently play in, where can we create value?
So Ryan, you were looking at a market you didn't understand, you didn't know.
Yep.
You had never been in. And you knew you didn't know that.
Yep.
Which led you to pursue knowledge.
Yep.
Because you were aware that you didn't know.
Correct.
Why am I saying this? I think when we do the best discovery, it's because we're aware of what we don't know.
Uh-huh.
We do the best discovery when we have the humility to say, I don't know that arena.
Yeah.
I don't know that space. I don't know this person. For internal product managers, I did some good discovery when I was at the LA Times. I did some good product management at the LA Times when I had internal users. But what really helped me there was that wall that Joe and I have talked about before between business and editorial.
Yeah.
They were really seen as the other. They were really seen as like a different group, and we are not them. Well, the good thing about that is that made me go to them in humility to try to understand them. But when you don't have that humility internally, because, hey, we're just working with our internal ops team, they want something, let me just jot over there, see what they want, kind of thing. You approach it differently. So I think what my advice would be, if you have an internal product, consider your internal users as something you don't understand, and have a thirst and desire to understand them. That is going to put you in a position where then you can start leading. You begin to be able to lead when you start seeing themes that they haven't seen.
Yep.
And so you have to be obsessed, that whole customer obsession. You have to be obsessed with trying to be like, I want to understand them. I don't understand them. They're not me. I am different. I need to know them. I think that's what drives great product management, even when you're internal.
Let me add on to that. I love what you said there. How does an internal product manager show impact? Given what you just said, how would they show impact, Todd? It's the same, right, as external, or is it different?
Let's talk about it. Let's just go the other way around. Like, how does an external product manager, so you have a product that's in a market, how do you measure success?
Market share, repurchase, conversion. There's leading and lagging indicators, but reviews. Depending on type of products, those are some of the indicators of success.
So is that how you measure the product, or how you measure the product manager?
Oh, Ryan, how would you measure the product manager in that scenario?
I guess I can share quickly how I have done it in my past, measure product managers. So I'm looking at things like interactions with customers. I'm looking at things, or users, because we're talking about internal product management here. I'm looking at their ability to successfully collect data and evidence. I'm looking at how much progress they're making towards outcomes. What kind of user behaviors or user behavior changes are they making through the decisions that through the outputs they decide to work on. And I'm also just looking at overall, maybe not overall, but product line performance, like a product business metric kind of thing too, see how things are going. So it's a combination, and it depends a little bit too on where their product is in its current life cycle stage, where the company is and its goals are, kind of how we aim up at those things. So there's a little bit of a mix there, depending.
Those behaviors, I'm looking at how often they're updating the roadmap. I'm looking at how often they're updating some key artifacts, because that tells me they're listening to the voice of the customer and they're reacting, right? Like they have their ear to the ground. They understand what's happening. They ask questions like, are they constantly doing discovery? Like those are the behaviors I'm looking at a successful product manager. Is that continuous discovery, and are they demonstrating that aptitude and that change, or like, are they showing they're evolving their thinking or their vision based on how much better they understand their segments.
So we said all that criteria for a product manager. Does that apply to the internal product manager as well?
I emphatically say yes. Now, someone might argue, and I had a product manager argue like, well, Joe, they have to use the tool. Like, let's take one that's very common to all of us, Workday, right? They have to use it. They don't have a choice, right? And even like some of the techniques we've talked about on this podcast, like product positioning, or it's like may not necessarily apply to them, but are they on it? Are they using more components of it? Are they asking questions? Are they the metrics are just going to be a little bit different because it's not an optional tool. It's a tool they have to use in their day-to-day job.
That's the point. Ryan, let's play a game. You ready, Ryan? It's going to be owner mentality and employee mentality like we talked about earlier. So if we're saying we want the former from our product managers, your product is Workday. That's one of your products, right? For your internal users. So what is an employee mentality to how you measure that versus what's an ownership mentality to how you measure that?
My employee mentality for Workday would be, hey, the integration between Workday and our internal tool doesn't work like I expect it to work. I need you to fix it. Go fix it. I put in a ticket. Can you address it? And the employee mentality would be saying yes. Okay, sure, whatever you say, you're a loud voice. Now, the owner mentality to that would be, okay, so would you show me what is breaking down? I'd love to come visit you. I'd love to see what you're doing. And I'd love to understand what consequence might exist by this not happening. Can I understand, please?
I like that. Now let's go with outcomes.
All right, this one, let's throw to Joe. Or are we not throwing to Joe?
Yeah, no,
I was taking Joe used Workday as an example, so I wanted to throw it to you. We're talking about outcomes. Remember, guys, we're talking about outcomes here. And I'm trying to say, when you say like, but what do you do when my outcomes, you can't say adoption because you have to use my product.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Well, right. If you're an employee mentality, it's just getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Right. So because they have to use it.
Do the work.
But what is the owner mentality? If you actually care about success, how do you measure that with a product that your team has to use?
Yeah. I mean, I think the outcomes would be understanding the impact of this tool as it relates to like efficiency, the ability to do my job, the ability to streamline certain processes, like having understanding of what's the value of this tool in the organization. Like what does the technology or the capability, how does it help us in our overall goal of the organization? Like, how can we reduce our risk? How can we streamline work that's taken a long time? How can we save on costs?
I'm gonna try to answer this, Joe. I like where you're going. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I kind of
sorry,
stop
I'm
you.
brainstorming.
I'm gonna approach this from this perspective. Todd, you asked about outcomes. I'm gonna start with the outcome. An ownership mentality would be an outcome that sounds like we are going to decrease the amount of time it takes to select a priority and work on it. We're going to that's what we're trying to do, is make the team more efficient. If we have an employee mentality, it's more, we're just going to get as many tickets, help them get as many tickets done as possible.
Yeah.
So then your measurement, it's not really, you're then in kind of that ticket taking mode, and you're just focused on doing things instead of doing the right things towards the right end.
Right. Yes. How can we leverage it more to enable us to do more of the things that we want to spend time doing and less of the things that kind of get in our way or they're kind of noise in our world that prohibit us from spending more time with our customers? Like that was always something I told my clients is focus on, okay, you want to spend more time doing discovery. What are things you need to like take off your load or take off your plate to help you do that? Like one client I worked with, it was like risk mitigation because, they had to go back and double check data points with their vendor because things weren't matching up. Well, the integration would help reduce some of that risk. It would reduce their liability. It would reduce some of the rework that they would have to do. They could get to other things that they aren't able to get to in the organization. Like that's what the owner mentality is going to see.
Right.
Let me ask you guys a question. I'm going to go back to something that was brought up earlier. Would you recommend an internal PM role to an early career PM?
Heck yeah.
One-
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Why? It's an opportunity for you to flex your product muscle. Todd was making the
Totally.
point earlier. You gotta do things and do it. Just do it.
I agree. I would say that your world is as small as you make it, right? If you want to make your world real small and you want to be a ticket taker, you can be that.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can also magnify your role. You can magnify it. You could do that in any job. We have a new CFO, and she was formerly our controller. And when our CEO made the announcement to our leadership team that she was going to be our CFO, this is how he said it. He said, "We did not make this decision. She forced us to. She forced us. She was so good at what she did, how she contributed to this job, what she did. We had no choice. She was our CFO." And that's the point. You can be everything you want to be if you apply yourself in that way. But if you want to go into an internal product and say, "Oh, my product's just internal, so I can't really do discovery. We don't have OKRs here, so I guess I can't really do outcomes." And you just make that, that could be your world, sure, if you want it to be that. The lesson to take from that is just, become an internal product manager and just tackle it. Do so awesome at your job that someone goes, "Well, we have to give them a bigger role. We have to. They forced our hand." It makes no sense to leave them where they're sitting because they're just too good.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to the very, very beginning. I don't think there's anything we've talked about that's that different between someone that manages internal products or external products. Like everything we've talked about, you got to attack them with the same passion and excitement, and you got to go above and beyond the call of duty. And that's what's going to help you grow in your career. Like that's the advice to anybody early in their product management career, right?
Maybe we should highlight the differences because there are differences.
Okay.
Here's some things if you have an external product that you're going to need to do. You're going to need to understand the buyer journey. You're going to need to understand who all the buyers are, the decision makers, and how you successfully position your product with those buyers. You don't have that problem internally. You need to be able to enable your sales team to talk about it the way you would talk about it. Internally, you can sell your product to all your internal users. You can know the messaging. You can adapt on the fly. But when you have an external product, you need your sales team to talk with the same passion that you have. So you have to learn how to give your passion by proxy. It's a different thing. You also, if you have an external product, you need to have an understanding of how pricing works, how pricing influences sales. And so that's a different skill set as well. And then the business model it's a little bit more complex. You need to understand what the sales motion is for your product, what the right sales motion is for your product.
Yep.
So time for key takeaways.
I think it is.
As we were doing this, I was reflecting. I'm grateful that I started my career in internal product management. It enabled me to focus a lot on the blocking and tackling. I got to be really good at PRDs. I got to be really good at writing user stories and writing acceptance criteria. I got to be really good at getting feedback from my Scrum team without having to worry about the buyer journey and sales enablement and pricing. So my biggest takeaway is I'm grateful I got to start as PM, internal PM.
I think what's hitting home most for me is that while it's easy to be attracted to the external facing, like the flashiness, the applause, the celebration and visibility that external PMs get, internal PMs are essential to making that happen. You can ship value without it being as overt. It's like a boot camp. If you take an internal PM job, you can in fact build skills faster than even an external might, because you can start to influence without authority, because you have to live in it every minute and second of your work and solve problems that maybe nobody else even sees within an organization to help them scale and do bigger and better things. So I want people to think about internal product managers as not just doing product work, but they're crushing it as product managers.
My key takeaway for our listeners is, as you're working with your partners, understand the with them, understand what matters to them, and then begin to apply some of those product management techniques that will help them make better decisions, because you're there to help them make better decisions. And in order to do that, you've got to have that strong trust. So one of the best pieces of advice I ever got as someone who supported internal products is I would ask that team, say, hey, when you're doing new employee onboarding or new hire training for your department, can you include me in that? That goes a long way towards garnering the respect of the different partners you may be supporting in your organization. This was good. It was good to be back on the porch. Still hot. It's still hot outside.
Still hot.
I'm going to chug some more sweet tea when I'm done with this.
All right, fellas, this was fun. Talking about internal product management as real product management.
Exactly.
We'll see you next time, guys.
All right. Bye, gentlemen.
Right. Have a good night, guys. Bye. Thank you for joining us on the Product Porch. We release new episodes every 2 weeks. You can also find us on LinkedIn for more content. We offer a special thank you to AJ and Jack Blockier for the music. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this podcast are their own and do not represent nor necessarily reflect those of their employer.